Hello all. Today we will be talking about TensorFlow question answering problem, which is to identify answers to real user questions about Wikipedia page content. Let's first understand the problem statement properly.
Existing natural language models have been focused on extracting answers from a short paragraph rather than reading an entire page of content for proper context. As a result, the responses can be complicated or lengthy. A good answer will be both succinct and relevant. Our goal is to predict short and long answer responses to real questions about Wikipedia articles. For example, if we feed the model with the question, where do water droplets collide with ice crystals to form precipitation? So, when the input paragraph is as follows, precipitation forms as smaller droplets coalesce via collision with other raindrops or ice crystals within a cloud. So, the output should be within a cloud. As you see, it's short and clear and is relevant to the question.
So now that the problem statement is clear, we will see how this problem was solved by four friends. Two friends, Hariharan and Manikishan, are trying to solve the question answering problem. They have come up with a solution that uses bidirectional LSTM. Though their model works very well, they feel that they can still do much better. It's late at night and they decide to pack up for the day. The next day, they have lunch at Lakeview, where they meet two other friends, Banu and Abhinav, who are the regular customers of Lakeview. Following is their conversation.
Hey guys, we have been working on this problem called TensorFlow question answering, and we have used bidirectional LSTMs, and we aren't satisfied with the model's overall performance. I'm sure there might be some way to improve the overall performance.
Hey, this seems to be a really interesting problem. Since this problem involves NLP, why don't you try using BERT, which is gaining immense popularity these days due to its high accuracy?
Oh, but not heard about that before. Could you tell me more about it?
BERT is an acronym for Bidirectional Encoder Representations for Transformers.
Whoa, that was really intimidating. I couldn't understand a single word. Could you please elaborate?
Okay, let's take it one step at a time. You do know about bidirectional LSTMs, right?
Yeah, using bidirectional LSTMs, we will run the inputs in two ways, one from the past to future and one from the future to past. And what differs this approach from unidirectional is that the LSTM that runs backwards, you preserve the information from the future and use the two hidden states combined. You are able in any point in time to preserve information from both past and the future. Is it right?
Yeah, that's how it works. But the problem with bidirectional LSTMs is that they process sentences sequentially, one word per time step. Due to this, LSTMs needs to propagate the error back in time through words one at a time during training, which eventually leads to problems like vanishing gradients. So in order to deal with this predicament, scientists came up with the concept of which are essentially sequence to sequence attention based models.
Wow, this sounds very promising. But could you elaborate a bit more on the sequence to sequence attention based models part?
Sequence to sequence basically means that you are giving a sequence, for example, a sentence as an input, and the output spits out another sequence as an output. Consider this as a task of language translation, like translating English to Hindi. The input is a sequence, which is an English sentence, and the output is another sequence, which is a Hindi sentence. Sequence to sequence models consist of an encoder and a decoder. The encoder takes the input sequence and maps it to a higher dimensional space, an n-dimensional vector. That abstract vector is fed into the decoder, which turns it into an output sequence. The output sequence can be in another language, symbol, a copy of the input, etc. Imagine the encoder and decoder as human translators who can speak only two languages. Their first language is their mother tongue, which differs between both of them. Example, English and Hindi. And the second language is an imaginary one they have in common. To translate English to Hindi, the encoder converts the English sentence into the other language it knows namely imaginary language. Since the decoder is able to read the imaginary language, it can now translate from that language into Hindi. Together, the model consisting of encoder and decoder can translate English into Hindi. Suppose that initially neither the encoder nor the decoder is very fluent in the imaginary language. To learn it, we train them on a lot of examples. A very basic choice for the decoder and the encoder of the sequence-to-sequence model is a single LSTM for each of them.
Let us now talk why transformers are called attention-based models. The attention mechanism looks at an input sequence and decides at each step which other parts of the sequence are important. It sounds very abstract, but let me clarify with an easy example. See, when you are reading a paragraph, you always focus on the word you read, but at the same time, your mind still holds the important keywords of the text in memory in order to provide the context. An attention mechanism works similarly for a given sequence. For our example, with the human encoder and decoder, imagine that instead of only writing down the translation of each sentence in the imaginary language, the encoder also writes down keywords that are important to the semantics of the sentence and gives them to the decoder in addition to the regular translation. Those new keywords make the translation much easier for the decoder because it knows what parts of the sentence are important and which key terms give the sentence context. In other words, for each input that the LSTM encoder reads, the attention mechanism takes into account several other inputs at the same time and decides which ones are important by attributing different weights to these inputs. The decoder will then take as input the encoded sentence and the weights provided by the attention mechanism.
So to sum up, like LSTM, transformers an architecture for transforming one sequence into another one with the help of two parts, an encoder and a decoder. But it differs from the previously described or existing sequence-to-sequence models because it does not imply any recurrent networks. So what exactly is a transformer? An image is worth 1,000 words. So we will start with that.
As previously mentioned, the encoder, which you can see on the left, and the decoder on the right, are composed of modules that can be stacked on top of each other multiple times, which is described by NX in the figure. We see that the modules consist mainly of multi-head attention and feed-forward layers. The inputs and outputs are first embedded into an n-dimensional space since we cannot use strings directly. One slight but very important part of the model is the positional encoding of the different words. Since we have no recurrent networks that can remember how sequences are fed into a model, we need to somehow give every word in our sequence a relative position since a sequence depends on the order of its elements. These positions are added to the embedded representation or the n-dimensional vector of each word. Let's start with the left description of the attention mechanism. Q is a matrix that contains the query, the vector representation of one word in the sequence. K are all the keys, vector representation of all the words in the sequence, and V are the values, which are again the vector representations of all the words in the sequence. For the encoder and decoder multi-head attention modules, V consists of the same word sequence as Q. However, for the attention module that is taking into account the encoder and the decoder sequences, V is different from the sequence represented by Q. To simplify this a little bit, we could say that the values in V are multiplied and summed up with some attention weights A, where our weights are defined. This means that the weights A are defined by how much each word of the sequence is influenced by all other words in the sequence. Additionally, the softmax function is applied to the weights to have a distribution between 0 and 1. Those weights are then applied to all the words in the sequence that are introduced in V. Same vectors than Q for encoder and decoder, but different for the module that has the encoder and decoder inputs.
This picture describes how this attention mechanism can be parallelized into multiple mechanisms that can be used side by side. The attention mechanism is repeated multiple times with linear projections of Q, K, and V. This allows the system to learn from different representations of Q, K, and V, which is beneficial to the model. These linear representations are done by multiplying Q, K, and V by weight matrices W that are learned during the training. Those matrices Q, K, and V are different for each position of the attention modules in the structure, depending on whether they are in the encoder, decoder, or in between encoder and the decoder. The reason is that we want to attend to either the whole encoder input sequence or a part of the decoder input sequence. The multi-head attention module that connects the encoder and the decoder, which makes sure that the encoder input sequence is taken into account together with the decoder input sequence up to a given position. After the multi-attention head in both the encoder and decoder, we have a point-wise feed-forward layer. This little feed-forward network has identical parameters for each position, which can be described as a separate identical linear transformation of each element from the given sequence.
Wow, that's overwhelming. But how does this connect to the big picture of BERT you were talking about?
BERT relies on a transformer, as I mentioned earlier. Since BERT's goal is to generate a language representation model, it only needs the encoder part. The input to the encoder for BERT is a sequence of tokens which are first converted into vectors and then processed in the neural network. But before processing can start, BERT needs the input to be massaged and decorated with some extra metadata. They are the embeddings. There are three types of embeddings: the token embeddings, segment embeddings, and the positional embeddings. The token embeddings, a CLS token, is added to the input word tokens at the beginning of the first sentence, and a SEP, separation token, is inserted at the end of each sentence. Segment embeddings will have a marker indicating sentence A or sentence B, which is added to each token. This allows the encoder to distinguish between the sentences. And the third is the positional embeddings, which is added to each token to indicate its position in the sentence. Essentially, the transformer stacks a layer that maps input sequences to output sequences so that the output is also a sequence of vectors with a 1:1 correspondence between input and output tokens at the same index. And as we learned earlier, BERT does not try to predict the next word in the sentence. Training makes use of the following two strategies known as the masked LM and the next sentence prediction NSP.
As we have seen earlier, BERT separates sentences with special SCP token. During training, the model is fed into two input sentences at a time such that 50% of the time the second sentence comes after the first one, and 50% of the time it is a random sentence from the full corpus. BERT is then required to predict whether the second sentence is random or not, with the assumption that the random sentence will be disconnected from the first sentence. To predict if the second sentence is connected to the first one or not, basically the complete input sequence goes to the transformer-based models. The output of the CLS token is transformed into a 2x1 shaped vector using a simple classification layer, and the isNext label is assigned using softmax. The model is trained with both masked LM and next sentence prediction together. This is to minimize the combination loss of the two strategies. As people say, together is better.
This is how BERT works as a whole. Not to exaggerate, but BERT has significantly altered the NLP landscape. Can you imagine using a single model that is trained on a large unlabeled dataset which has achieved state-of-the-art results on 11 individual NLP tasks? And all of this with very little fine-tuning. That's BERT for you. It's a tectonic shift in how we design our NLP models. It can be used for applications which require sequence classification, sentence pair classification, question answering, single sentence tagging, or hyperparameter tuning.
Wow, this sounds very promising. So let's try to solve this problem using BERT and compare it with our previous results which were attained using the bidirectional LSTMs.
Let's discuss the implementation in the evening. Let's now enjoy our food, man. Hurry, pass the fried rice first.
3 days later.
Guys, let's discuss the implementation we tried over the last few days.
This implementation looks overwhelming. Can you please break it down for me?
Yes, we found out that there are two types of BERT models, BERT base and BERT large. So, BERT base consists of 12 layers, which are transformer blocks, 12 attention heads, and 110 million parameters. Whereas BERT large has 24 layers, 16 attention heads, and 340 million parameters. Let's look at some code. In this implementation, we have used the BERT baseline for TensorFlow to create predictions for the natural questions test set. We used our onboard GPU and it took between 1 to 2 hours to run. So, the required libraries have been imported in this part of the code.
Next, we'll look at the flags that are used. So basically, TensorFlow flags are variables that can be passed around within the TensorFlow system. Every flag below provides some context regarding what the flag is and how it's used. Most of these can be changed as desired, with the exception of the special flags at the bottom, which must stay as it is to work with the Kaggle backend.
So basically, in this part of the code, the flags are being reset. So below are the flags few flags that are redefined.
Here we set the different values for BERT to work on, like batch size, learning rate, iterations, etc.
So this in this way, the flags have been used as variables to decide but should work. To get BERT up and running, we do the following things. First, set up the BERT, then read in the test set, run it past the pre-built BERT model to create the embeddings. Use those embeddings to make more predictions. Write those predictions into a prediction.json file. Let us look at them one by one.
So BERT has two stages basically. These are pre-training and fine-tuning. We can pre-train BERT on our own, but it's a high computational task. There are a lot of pre-trained BERT models available, which we can choose depending on our NLP task and fine-tune them, which saves us a lot of computation. Fine-tuning, on the other hand, is inexpensive. Training a BERT model from scratch on a small data set would result in overfitting. So it is better to use a pre-trained BERT model that was trained on a used data set as a starting point. We can then further train the model on a relatively smaller data set, and then this process is known as model fine-tuning. There are different fine-tuning techniques which we train where we train the model partially that meets our goal. The different options are train the entire architecture, train some layers while freezing others, freeze the entire architecture. The fine-tuned model is ready to go now. So this basically loads a data file into a list of input batches.
This is this is where the prediction part of the BERT is. So this is where the prediction goes on. And as we see here, the start logics, end logics, and answer type. These variables hold positions to the start and end of the answer in the text that is fed with. It also stores the type of the answer.
This implementation looks awesome. Thanks guys for explaining it so well. I have one question though. How do these algorithms stack up with existing ones?
Thank you, Abhinav. I would like to show the performance measures and all. So this is a comparison of different models that are there for the similar task, question answering model, to different NLP models. And as we see here, the EM and F1 are the scores. So they are the performance measures. So where F1 score captures the precision and recall that words chosen as being part of answer. Uh, the answer that are actually part of the answer. So whereas the exact match the EM score is the number of answers that are exactly correct with the same start and end index. So these two will tell us how correctly these models are giving us. So as you see, compared to the other models, the BERT model that we have and the various configurations of it, it's giving more than 80%. And if you see the F1 score, it's giving nearly 92% on that. So this is far more promising than the previous implementation which we went through. And this is a comparison for GLUE benchmark. So let me tell what is GLUE benchmark. So GLUE stands for General Language Understanding Evaluation. So this benchmark is a collection of resources for training and evaluating the natural language understanding systems. So on running this analysis on several methods that are there, so BUT stands third in this thing. So BUT takes the second and third place. As you see the red line, it is the human performance, what the average human performs to that similar task. So I would tell uh, a few more efforts into this direction, we will be able to reach human performance or even surpass it.
Well, that's awesome, Manikishan. The stats that you showed indicates the superiority of the BERT model in comparison to the other models. So it basically shows that. So with this, we can conclude that BERT is the secret of our accuracy.
This was an attempt to make the video a little interesting and stand out. Hope you liked it, guys. Thank you.